I never thought I would find myself in this situation, writing down my feelings and experiences like some sort of therapy session. But here I am. My name is Mark, and I've been married to Lily for almost 5 years. On the surface, we looked like your typical couple in the suburbs, a nice house, a dog named Max, and a shared Netflix password. But beneath that facade, things were starting to crack. At first, it was subtle. I noticed Lily was spending more time on her appearance, which, to be honest, I didn't think much of at first. She'd always been the kind of woman who loved to look good, and I appreciated that about her. But then, I began to notice that she was more secretive, texting in another room, being evasive about her plans, and little things like her suddenly being too tired for date nights. I brushed it off as stress from work. She had been pulling longer hours at the marketing firm. One evening, I came home a little earlier than usual. I was excited to surprise her with dinner and a bottle of wine, only to find the house empty. I grabbed my phone to text her, but before I could, I noticed something odd. Her purse was on the kitchen counter, and I caught a glimpse of her phone sticking out. Naturally, I hesitated. I knew snooping was wrong, but curiosity got the better of me. I picked it up, and there it was, a message from someone named Jake. "Can't wait to see you tonight. It's been too long." My heart sank. I felt a mix of anger and sickening betrayal wash over me. I tried to shake it off, convincing myself it could be a friend or a colleague, but deep down, I knew what was happening. I had to know for sure. Over the next few days, I played detective. I noticed how she would take longer to respond to messages, and how her mood shifted whenever I mentioned anything about our plans. I also found receipts for items that she claimed were gifts for me, but they were in sizes that didn't match anything I had. The final straw was when I found a small bottle of perfume in her gym bag, a scent I had never smelled on her before. With every piece of evidence, I found my anger morphed into a cold determination. I had to confront her, but I wanted to gather as much evidence as I could before I did. I started monitoring her whereabouts, looking at her social media, and even asking a mutual friend about her activities. Every new thing I discovered made me feel more nauseous and betrayed. Finally, I decided I had enough. I couldn't let her continue to deceive me like this. I planned a confrontation for the weekend when I knew she'd be home. I wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal, to understand that I wasn't going to be the nice guy who just brushed things under the carpet. When the day finally arrived, I set up a camera in the living room to record our conversation. I wanted evidence, not just for my own clarity, but for any legal matters down the line, just in case. I was ready to hear her lies and excuses. As I sat on the couch, waiting, I felt like I was in a bad movie. My heart raced and my palms were sweaty. I could hear the garage door open. My stomach twisted in knots. This was it. Lily walked in, and everything about her demeanor screamed of deception. She had this radiant smile, her hair was perfectly styled, and she was wearing a dress that looked fresh off a mannequin. It was a stark contrast to the casual wear she usually sported around the house. "Hey babe, you're home early," she chirped, completely oblivious to the storm brewing behind my eyes. "Yeah, I wanted to talk," I replied, my voice steady, but my insides were churning. She frowned slightly, sensing that something was off. "Sure, what's up?" I took a deep breath, ready to unleash a flood of truth, but before I could, I needed to put her on the spot. "Lily, who's Jake?" Her smile faded, and in that moment I saw the mask slip. "What do you mean?" she asked, playing dumb, but her eyes darted away. I wasn't letting her off that easy. "Don't play coy with me, Lily. I found your messages." The confrontation had begun, and I braced myself for the fallout. I needed to prepare for her tricks, her lies, and the emotional roller coaster that was about to unfold. The initial confrontation was a whirlwind of emotions. I could see the gears turning in Lily's mind, trying to come up with a plausible excuse. Her eyes widened for a moment, and then she plastered on a smile, the kind that I had once found charming but now just felt manipulative. "Mark, you have to understand. It's not what you think," she began, her voice too smooth, too rehearsed. "Really? Because it looks like you've been texting some guy named Jake, and it sounds pretty intimate to me." I was trying to keep my tone calm, but the anger was bubbling up inside. She stepped toward me, her hands raised as if to calm me down, but it only fueled the fire. It's just work stuff. He's a client. Even as she said it, I could see the cracks in her facade. I pressed on. A client you can't mention to your husband. A client you have to hide your phone from. Lily sighed dramatically as if I were the one making a scene. I can explain. I've just been under so much pressure at work. You know how demanding my job is. I didn't want to bother you with all of it, she said, her voice dripping with faux concern. Pressure. So you thought it was a good idea to just start flirting with someone else. Is that your idea of coping? I asked, trying my best to hold on to my composure while everything inside me felt like it was breaking apart. She rolled her eyes, a move that would have annoyed me even before all of this. You're being dramatic, Mark. I promise it's nothing. You're just overreacting. Overreacting. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I felt a cold rush of fury ignite inside me. Is that how you view what I found? Just harmless texts? Her demeanor shifted from defensive to slightly aggressive. You don't understand how hard it is for me. I've been trying to keep our lives together while you're busy working on your stupid projects. That was a low blow. I had put in long hours at work too, trying to provide for us, trying to build a future we both wanted. I didn't even know how to respond at that moment. I just stood there, shocked at her audacity. We're not doing this, Lily. You're not going to turn this around on me. You're the one who's been cheating and you know it, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. I've seen your receipts, the perfume and the texts. This is all happening while I'm out working hard for us. Her expression faltered for a moment and I caught a glimpse of vulnerability, but then the mask returned. I swear it's not what you think. We've been distant for so long and I wanted to feel desired again. Desired by who? By Jake. You think that's how you resolve your issues? I could feel the tears of anger prick at my eyes, but I wouldn't let them fall. You didn't even think about how this would hurt me. Mark, please, she pleaded, but it sounded utterly insincere. I can explain everything. I shook my head. No, you can't. You've already made your choice. Then, before I knew it, my heart, which had felt like a heavy stone in my chest, began to crack. I had loved this woman with all my heart, and the betrayal stung more than I had ever imagined possible. I stepped back, needing to create physical space. I need some air. I can't do this right now. I walked outside, leaving her standing there, her face a mix of confusion and defiance. I didn't want to hear anything else she had to say. I needed to process this betrayal, and the last thing I wanted was to hear more of her excuses. Outside, I took a deep breath, grounding myself. The weight of the situation was heavy, and I felt the urge to scream, to lash out, but I held it in. I had to think clearly. As I paced in the backyard, my mind raced with thoughts of what I should do next. I felt a whirlwind of emotions, anger, sadness, and a sense of betrayal that threatened to engulf me. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from my best friend Adam, wondering when we could grab a drink. I considered reaching out to him to talk about the situation, but I didn't want to burden him with my problems just yet. I wanted to be rational about this, to think through my options. But how could I? The woman I thought I knew had just shattered everything I believed about our marriage. Eventually, I went back inside, steeling myself for whatever was about to happen next. I was determined not to let her spin this story in her favor. I'd gather my thoughts, gather my evidence, and then I'd decide how to move forward. I couldn't go on living a lie. As I stepped back through the door, I saw Lily sitting on the couch, her arms crossed, a defiant look on her face. You're not just going to walk away, Mark. We need to talk about this. I took a deep breath, preparing myself for the battle ahead. This was not just about me anymore. It was about standing up for myself. I took a moment to collect myself before stepping back into the living room, and the tension was palpable. Lily sat there, arms crossed, her expression a mixture of defiance and fear. I could feel the weight of the confrontation hanging in the air like thick fog. You said we needed to talk. I began, my voice even. So let's talk. No more lies, no more excuses. Let's get everything out in the open. Fine, she snapped, her impatience clear. What do you want from me, Mark? Do you want me to beg for your forgiveness? Is that it? No, I want the truth. How long has this been going on? I pressed, already knowing the answer would sting. Just a few months. I wasn't planning on it happening, she admitted, her tone shifting slightly as if she was trying to save face. It just kind of happened. It just happened. That's your excuse. I felt the anger rising again, but I fought to keep it in check. You're telling me that all those late nights and secretive text messages were just coincidence. She rolled her eyes again, a gesture that made my blood boil. I told you I was feeling neglected. You were so consumed with work that I didn't know how to reach out to you. I felt invisible. I scoffed. So your solution was to cheat, to betray everything we built together. You could have talked to me, Lily. You could have said something. But you wouldn't have listened. She shot back, her voice rising. You're always so busy, I didn't think you'd care. I struggled to process her words. You're blaming me for your choices. You think this is my fault. Her expression softened momentarily as if she realized she had crossed a line. No, Mark, I'm not saying that. I was in a bad place, okay? I thought I could handle it. I didn't mean for it to escalate. Her admission hung in the air like a bitter pill I didn't want to swallow. But it did escalate, Lily. You've crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. You've hurt me in ways you can't even begin to understand. The reality of our situation washed over me like a cold wave. I was standing here, confronting my wife about her infidelity, and she still couldn't grasp the gravity of her actions. I had given her everything, and she had thrown it all away for a fleeting moment of excitement. I need you to understand just how serious this is, I said, my voice low but intense. This isn't just a minor bump in the road for us. You've shattered our marriage. Lily's eyes glistened with unshed tears, but I couldn't let myself feel pity for her yet. You can't just say you're sorry and expect everything to go back to normal. That's not how this works. I know that, she exclaimed, her frustration spilling over, but I want to fix it. I want to go to counseling or whatever it takes to make this work. Counseling, I echoed, incredulous. You think we can just sit down with a stranger and pretend everything is fine? How do I know you won't just go back to Jake the moment it gets tough? Her silence was deafening, and I could see the realization dawn on her as she processed my words. You don't trust me anymore, she said softly, almost as a statement rather than a question. No, I don't, I replied, the truth stinging as it left my lips. You've broken that trust, and it won't just come back because you want it to. Lily's emotion seemed to shift rapidly, and for a moment she looked vulnerable, a shadow of the confident woman I once loved. Please, Mark, we can work through this. We can figure it out together. I took a deep breath, the weight of her plea pressing down on me. I don't know if I can go back to what we had. I don't know if I even want to. Her expression transformed, and I wondered if she truly understood the consequences of her actions. Just give me a chance. I'll do anything. I'll change. Standing there, I felt the battle within me. Part of me longed for the days before betrayal, when we shared laughter and dreams. But the other part reminded me of the hurt and betrayal that now clouded those memories. I can't just forget what you've done, I said, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions. I need time to think. I need to figure out what I want. As I turned to walk away, I was struck by the realization that our relationship as we knew it was effectively over. The love we had built was now tainted by her choices, and I couldn't ignore that. In that moment, I resolved not to rush into any decisions. I needed clarity and maybe even a little revenge. I wanted her to understand the depths of her betrayal, to feel just a fraction of the pain she had caused. I left the room, my heart heavy but my mind clear. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me any longer. I needed to gather the evidence and create a plan. If she wanted to fight for our marriage, she would have to understand the consequences of her actions and the damage she had done. I couldn't let this end without making her see the reality of what she had thrown away. It was time to take control. In the days that followed the confrontation, I felt as if I were living in a fog. The house felt foreign, filled with echoes of our past that now felt hollow and tainted. Lily was doing her best to act as though nothing had changed, but I could see the cracks in her facade. She would hover around, trying to engage me in casual conversation or remind me of errands we needed to run, but I felt like I was looking at a stranger. I spent my days trying to focus on work, but my mind kept drifting back to her betrayal. The image of her with Jake, this shadowy figure I'd never met, haunted me. I wanted to know who he was, what he looked like, and how he had managed to make my wife feel desired when she had made me feel like a ghost in our own home. That night, I found myself scrolling through social media, searching for any trace of Jake. I dug deeper, looking through mutual friends, her colleagues, anyone who might lead me to him. A few clicks later, I found a photo that made my stomach turn. There he was, a tall guy with a charming smile, standing way too close to Lily at a company event. The caption read, "Cheers to new beginnings, work fam." I felt the knot in my stomach tighten. I couldn't believe it. This wasn't some fleeting fling, this was her work family. I felt rage boiling inside me. I wanted to confront Jake, to make him realize the pain he had caused, but I knew that wouldn't fix anything. The betrayal was with Lily, and she was the one I needed to confront. I decided to gather more evidence to arm myself with the proof I needed. I started documenting everything: the receipts, the texts, the social media posts. I wanted a clear picture of her deceit so I could confront her again, but this time with undeniable proof. A week passed in this haze of anger and sadness. Lily continued to act as though everything was fine, but I could see her efforts were half-hearted. One afternoon, she came home from work with a new hairstyle, long, flowing curls that draped over her shoulders in a way that made her look like a different person. She noticed me staring at her, and instead of the usual spark of joy, I could see a mix of anxiety and guilt in her eyes. "What do you think?" she asked, twirling a lock of hair around her finger, trying to gauge my reaction. "It looks nice," I said flatly. I wasn't going to play her game. "Thanks, I thought maybe it would spice things up a bit," she trailed off, and I could see her trying to gauge my mood. "Why don't you ask Jake what he thinks?" I shot back, the words slipping out before I could stop myself. Her face fell and she closed her eyes for a moment before looking back at me. "That's not fair, Mark. You can't keep throwing him in my face like this." "Why not? He's the reason we're here, isn't he? You chose to go to him when I thought we were building a life together." Lily flinched at my words, and for a moment I thought I could see a flicker of remorse in her eyes, but it quickly disappeared, replaced by defensiveness. "I made a mistake, I'm trying to fix it." "Fix it? You think just saying sorry will make everything okay?" I leaned closer, feeling the tension crackle between us. "It doesn't work that way. You've seriously wounded me, and I'm not sure I can ever look at you the same way again. I can prove to you that I want to make this work. I'll do anything," she pleaded, but I was no longer interested in her promises. "Anything? Really? You think I'm just going to forget the last few months?" At that moment I had an idea. I was tired of being the one hurt and betrayed. If she wanted to play games, then I would play too. I wanted to teach her a lesson, one that she wouldn't soon forget. "I don't want to spend another minute here pretending everything is fine. I need space," I said, my voice low but firm. "I'm going to stay at Adams for a while." Lily's eyes widened. "You can't be serious, you're just going to run away." "I'm not running away. I'm giving myself time to think without you around. I need clarity away from this mess," I replied. As I grabbed my bag and started to leave, I felt a mix of relief and guilt. Part of me felt bad for leaving her, but another part of me knew it was necessary. I had to take control. The next few days at Adams were a blur. He was supportive, reminding me that I deserved better. I shared the whole story with him: her betrayal, my anger, my need for revenge. He listened patiently, offering advice when I asked for it, but mostly just being a friend. Eventually, I confirmed my plans. I wanted to confront Jake to see where this all led. I knew it wouldn't solve anything, but I had to make a statement. I needed to show Lily that her actions had consequences, and that I wouldn't be the passive participant in this mess any longer. I started gathering information about Jake, his work schedule, where he hung out after hours, and even the gym he attended. I felt a rush of anxiety and adrenaline as I plotted my next steps. This wouldn't be just a confrontation. It would be a moment of reckoning for both of them, and I would make sure they both understood the gravity of what they had done. I was ready to execute my plan, and I wouldn't rest until they both felt the weight of their choices. I was through with being the victim. It was time for me to reclaim my narrative, to regain my power. I would show Lily that I wouldn't let her betrayal go unchallenged. I spent another few days at Adams, plotting my next move while wrestling with my emotions. The anger that had once consumed me began to transform into something different, a sense of clarity. I realized that confronting Jake wasn't just about revenge, it was about self-empowerment. I wanted to make sure Lily understood that I wouldn't be the pushover anymore. I managed to get Jake's work schedule through some mutual acquaintances. He worked at a nearby tech firm, and I found Out he frequented a particular bar after work with colleagues. Armed with this information, I decided to show up one evening, fully prepared for whatever confrontation awaited me. The bar was dimly lit, filled with the sounds of laughter and clinking glasses. I walked in, scanning the room until I spotted Jake, leaning back against the bar, his confident grin on full display. He was surrounded by a group of coworkers and seemed completely at ease, not a care in the world. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what I was about to do. I approached the bar, feeling a mix of nerves and adrenaline coursing through me. I had rehearsed this in my mind 1,000 times, and now I needed to confront the man who had become the embodiment of my pain. "Jake," I said, my voice steady as I approached him. He turned, surprise flickering across his face as he recognized me. "Mark, what's up, man?" I could hear the confusion in his tone, but I wasn't there to exchange pleasantries. "We need to talk." His smile faltered slightly and he looked around as if gauging the situation. Okay, what?" About Lily," I said, watching his expression turn from friendly to guarded. He straightened, the easygoing demeanor slipping away. "What are you talking about?" "Cut the crap, Jake. I know about you too. I know what's been happening." I leaned in closer, lowering my voice. "You think this is just some fun game? You're messing with someone's marriage." His eyes narrowed and I could see the gears turning in his mind. "Look, man, I didn't know. I thought she was single," he said, trying to deflect. "You didn't think to ask." I shot back, feeling the heat of anger rising again. "You just went along with it, didn't you, pretending like it was all innocent." "Hey, it's not like that. Lily didn't say she was married." He protested, his voice rising slightly. "Doesn't matter. You're still a part of this mess and you need to understand the damage you've done," I said, feeling the tension in the room escalate. At that moment, I could see his bravado start to crack. "Look, man, I didn't mean for things to get complicated. We were just having fun and it didn't feel." "Serious? Fun?" I echoed, my voice incredulous. "You think it's fun to toy with someone's heart? You think it's fun to ruin someone's life?" Jake opened his mouth to respond, but I could see my words were hitting him harder than he anticipated. "I'm not here to make excuses for her. I'm here to make sure you realize that you both need to take responsibility for what you've done." He shifted uncomfortably, no longer the confident guy I had seen moments before. I took a step back, allowing the weight of my words to settle. "This isn't just about you and her. You've crossed a line and it won't just disappear. I need you to understand the consequences of your actions." Jake stared at me and I could see the realization dawning on him. "So what do you want?" he asked, his voice quieter now. "I want you to stay away from her. I want you to understand that this isn't just a fling. You've hurt someone you'll never get to take back. I want you to think about what you've done every time you look in the mirror," I said, feeling a sense of power wash over me. As I turned to leave, I felt a strange sense of closure. I had confronted the man who had become the catalyst for my pain and I felt lighter for it, but there was still the matter of Lily. I returned home feeling a mix of emotions, anger, relief, sadness, but mostly I felt empowered. I had taken a step to reclaim my life. I needed to confront Lily again, but this time I would be ready. I would lay everything on the table and make her see the full scope of her betrayal. When I walked through the door, I found her sitting on the couch, her eyes darting between the TV and the door. She looked up at me, her expression a mix of hope and anxiety. "Mark, you're back early. How was it?" "It was enlightening," I replied, my voice steady as I set my bag down. "We need to talk again." Her face fell slightly and I could see the tension in her shoulders. "About what?" "About you, me, and Jake," I said, watching her expression shift. "Mark, please, No, you're going to listen to me." This time I interrupted, feeling the resolve solidifying within me. I confronted him. I made it clear that he needs to stay away from you. Lily's eyes widened with surprise and I could see her processing the implications of my words. "You did what?" I told him that he's crossed a line and that he needs to understand the consequences of his actions. I said, my voice firm. "But we need to talk about us now." She looked at me, a mixture of fear and uncertainty in her gaze. "What does this mean for us?" "It means I'm done pretending that everything is fine and I need to know if you're willing to take responsibility for your actions," I said, preparing myself for her response. "I am. I want to make this work, I swear," she pleaded, desperation creeping into her voice. "I'll do whatever it takes." Whatever it takes, I echoed, feeling a mix of anger and disappointment. That's a big promise, Lily. But you need to understand that it's going to take more than just words this time. She nodded slowly, and I could see the weight of her realization settling in. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, and I can't take that back, but I want to try, I really do. Trying isn't good enough anymore, I said, my voice steady. You need to show me, and you need to understand the damage that's been done. As we sat there in silence, I could feel the weight of our situation hanging in the air. I had confronted Jake, and now I was ready to confront Lily. But this time, there wouldn't be any more excuses. I needed to see if she truly understood the gravity of her betrayal and whether she was willing to fight for what we once had. It was time to lay everything on the table, and this time, I would be the one in control. I would demand the respect I deserved and create a future based on honesty, trust, and a commitment to healing. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to walk it if she was. The air between us felt heavy, thick with unspoken words and unhealed wounds. I could see the conflict playing out on Lily's face, but I knew I had to be strong. I couldn't let her charm or tears sway me this time. Lily, I began, my voice firm, this isn't just about you wanting to patch things up. You need to understand that trust is broken and it's not going to be easy to rebuild. I get that, she replied, her voice shaky but earnest. I know I made a terrible mistake, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it right. I want to earn your trust back. Trust is earned through actions, not words, I reminded her, my tone resolute. I need you to show me you're committed to changing, to being transparent and honest with me from now on. No more secrets. Lily nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I promise, Mark. I'll show you that I can change. I'll be open and honest about everything. I'll cut ties with Jake completely. There's more to it than that, I said, feeling the weight of this moment. You need to understand why you made those choices in the first place. You need to work on yourself, whether that's through counseling, talking to a friend, or whatever it takes to understand why you felt the need to betray me. I will, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'll go to counseling. I'll do everything I can to fix this. I took a deep breath, feeling the heaviness lift just a little. I need time to process everything. We've been through so much, and I can't just flip a switch and pretend it didn't happen. I understand, she replied, her voice thick with emotion. Just please don't give up on us. I know I've hurt you, but I want to make things right. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of our shared pain hanging in the air. I had never imagined I'd find myself in this position, confronting my wife about her infidelity. But here I was, facing the reality of our relationship and the choices we both had to make. I want us to work through this, but it's going to take time. It won't be easy, I said, my voice steady. I'm willing to put in the work, she assured me, her eyes filled with sincerity. I won't take you for granted ever again. As we talked, I felt a flicker of hope igniting within me. It was small, but it was there. Perhaps there was a path forward for us, but it would require commitment and effort from both sides. In the weeks that followed, Lily kept her word. She cut ties with Jake and started attending counseling sessions. She was open about her struggles and worked hard to regain my trust. Slowly but surely, we began to rebuild our relationship. It was a long road filled with ups and downs. There were moments when I felt anger bubbling beneath the surface, times when I questioned whether we could truly come back from this. But with each passing day, I saw Lily making genuine efforts to change, to be more present, and to communicate openly. We started going on dates again, rediscovering parts of each other that had been lost in the chaos of betrayal. I had my guard up, but I also felt moments of joy creeping back in. We shared laughter, intimate conversations, and even some tears along the way as we navigated this new chapter. Through it all, I learned that healing takes time. It's not a linear path, and there will always be scars. But with patience, honesty, and effort from both of us, I began to see the potential for a renewed relationship. I won't pretend that everything is perfect now. We still have our challenges, and trust is something that has to be continually earned. But I also realized that I had a choice in how I wanted to move forward. I could either let anger and resentment consume me or embrace the possibility of healing and growth. As I reflect on this experience, I realized the importance of communication and vulnerability in a relationship. I learned the hard way that honesty is crucial, and sometimes the hardest conversations are the ones that lead to the greatest growth. If I could offer any advice to others facing similar situations, it would be this. Don't be afraid to confront the truth, no matter how painful it may be. It's better to face your demons head-on than to let them fester in the shadows. And remember, the road to healing may be long, but it's worth it if both partners are willing to put in the work. Our relationship may have been shaken to its core, but with time, we found our footing again. I'm not sure what the future holds for us, but I do know this. We're committed to facing it together, stronger than before.